the $250 million decision problem, and this is 250 million US dollars. So I'm going to share with you what does this look like for you, your team, or for your organization. My name is Alison Johnson, and I am representing IBIS Consultancy, for which I am a licensed administrative consultant, and I'll share with you the details of how you can connect with me at the end of this presentation. Now, before we begin, ask yourself this: why should this matter to you? 61% of managers report at least half the time spent on decisions is used ineffectively. And this was actually based on a survey that was done by McKinsey and Company 2019. So this is representing credible report in the field of work. Now, this is not just a statistic about other organizations. It is the baseline for any individual, team, or organization that has never installed a decision framework. And in the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to examine exactly what this looks like. Okay, all right, so let's continue. Now, the gap that was found is not a people problem. It is a decision structure problem. So whether you work independently, whether you lead a small team or manage an entire organization, capable professionals at every level routinely operate below their productive ceiling. So basically what this is saying, they are not reaching the output that they are actually capable of. The reason is rarely a lack of talent or commitment. So it's not that persons are not committed, and it's not that they're not talented, but it is the absence of a structured framework. And this is what governs how decisions are made, resolved, and followed through. So you can look at the three factors that I mentioned there: how decisions are made, how they are resolved, and how they are followed through. And based on my experience, and of course, as shared here in the data, that still you find 61%, that's a whopping number, 61% of managers report at least half the time spent on decisions is used ineffectively. Now, this is why I say to you that when I offer to share my services with organizations, you will have a few people that say, well, I don't need this for my organization. But this is something that you may not be able to identify off the top of your head. But in your reporting standards, this is one of the areas in which you'll find inefficiencies. Okay, so let's continue. Now, what this session is and what this session is not. So I'm explaining to you the benefits that you will get from this session. Now, in this session, or what I'm able to offer you, is a structured diagnostic briefing that is grounded in verified research, some of which I have shared with you before. Now, a session that identifies where decisions lose momentum, basically where things get stalled or they get stuck. It's designed for individuals, teams, and organizations at every scale. All right. Now, the starting point for a structured decision with lasting results. So basically, all of this that I'll be sharing with you, the results are designed to be lasting. So this is, of course, based on my experience and based on my training as well. Now, what this is not, it's not going to be a motivational or mindset talk. It's not a free preview of course. It's not a sales presentation. It's not a wellness program presented as a strategy. It's not a set of notes that you will not use again if you are wise. All right, so let's continue. So we spoke about 61% of managers who reported decision time is largely ineffective, time spent deciding that produces no resolution. So that means that there are some issues that you deliberate over these matters, but guess what? They actually never get resolved. So they either get pushed aside, or based on my experience, normally they find a way around this, but never actually resolve. So here's additional research. All right, now this is APA, and this was 2001. 40% of productive output is lost due to task switching. So just as I mentioned before, moving between tasks without finishing decisions. And listen, all of us, if we should really do a self-diagnosis, all of us are guilty of this. All right, so 40% of productive output is lost to tasks switching. And I mentioned before, this is basically switching between tasks without finishing decisions. So overall, this is what contributes to that $250 million in revenue. So this is because of, that is the estimated annual wasted labor cost that moves, right, labor costs from ineffective decision making at organizational scale. And again, this is coming from another McKinsey report. So this is not saying that organizations don't make decisions. It's telling you based on actual reports. And believe me, there are so many other reports that I have compiled that I could share with you, facts which are proven. All right, but of course, this is just an introduction. Okay, so this is precisely why resolution path exists. Based on this, on my research and my findings analysis, right, I have put together a solid solution. The structural cause is identical whether you are a solo founder or leading a 500-person organization. The solution is the same: a decision framework installed at the level that exists. Now listen, this is what I have compiled. You have 4 patterns and 1 root cause, i.e. it's not one standard root cause at every organization. So when I explain 1 root cause, it means that within your particular organization, there is at least 1 root cause. I'm not saying that this is going to be the same for every organization. Now, one of the first factors is speed, all right? So this refers to decisions that never seem to conclude. Research and analysis continue indefinitely because the criteria for stopping has never been defined. So this is where the decision loops rather than lands. Okay. Now another factor is clarity. So every time you have to start from scratch without a repeatable framework, this is basically without a structured decision. Every decision is rebuilt from the beginning, and this is multiplying mental load with each iteration. All right. So each time you do this, this is also factoring in mental load, and I'll explain further. All right. Now confidence. So this is basically second guessing after you decide. All right. And this is one that I have been guilty of. So a decision is made, and then after you make that decision, you immediately reopen. So if I'm to give you a basic example, it's just like you're deciding to buy a pair of shoes. All right, let me use a practical example. So after you made the decision to purchase the pair of shoes and you go to the counter, you suddenly see something else that you like. So that is an example after you of second guessing after deciding. Now in the field of work, this could be that you decided to accept a particular good from one supplier, but then you maybe found additional research and you decide, I think I will go with another supplier. And then you do this, let's say after a meeting, or something could happen that changes. So all of this is being factored in those costs. Okay. Then you have execution. So you decide, but not actually doing it. So if you notice the difference, there is confidence, second guessing after deciding, execution. So you decide, but you never actually do it. So the gap between a decision and acting on it, that widens under pressure. It expands under pressure. So choosing is not the problem. Making the choice is not the problem. But sometimes there are decisions that are made in organizations that are never followed through. So the follow through is where the structure is absent. All right. So we just have a few minutes left. So for those who may be listening to this and you're thinking, which pattern resonates most, either for you or for your team right now? Right? And if you're listening, you can put it in the comments. Okay, so based on what I mentioned, you can decide whether it's speed, where analysis or research that has never reached a conclusion, clarity, where every decision feels like starting over from the beginning, confidence, where decisions get made, then immediately questioned or reopened, or execution, where the decision gets made, but action does not follow. All right. And so in my resolution path, here is an insight as to what you'll be able to gain. This is a full decision infrastructure programs that is either for individual founders, teams, organization, and the list continue. Now, here mentioned it's a proprietary half-day program that installs a functioning decision system, not a mindset shift, not a set of notes, but an operational framework which is deployable from day one. Now, I mentioned your half-day program, but this can vary from organization to organization. All right, it is dependent on the size and on the nature of your organization. Okay. Now, for decision exit criteria, that's part of the solution. This is a defined point at which analysis stops, a decision is made, so research concludes rather than continues indefinitely. Right? Closure protocol, a process that prevents your decisions from being reopened once they have been made. So you have one decision, one conclusion. All right. Validation system, a check that confirms the decision is sound. So it's a soundproof decision before you actually take action on that. Right. So before action begins, confidence that is built into the process and not assumed. And then mainly in my program, there is a 90-day review protocol. So you see, it's not really about half day, maybe to get introduced to some things, but review protocol is one of those things, especially in my experience with program and project management. You must have follow through in everything that you decide. You must have follow through. So this is included at every tier. So there are various tiers because decision intelligence compounds when it is measured over time. All right. Okay, checking the minutes as I go along. All right, so resolution path continues. Now, so there is also the option of an ebook. So there's an ebook that I have compiled, and this is just to introduce you to the various patterns as mentioned and lead you to make better structured decisions. But of course, we know an ebook is never the final decision that will help any organization, but it can help by far, helping you understand certain patterns, identify certain things, gain practice over time, so you move a little bit closer to make better decisions. All right, now this is for everyone. For individuals, the exercises in the ebook, you're able to apply a 5-minute decision framework to your own decisions. And of course, this helps to reduce the mental load of recurring choices, because we do have individuals, everyone has them, with making decisions based on each of the pattern mentioned. This will help to reduce your mental load of recurring choices, so you'll find out that you have more time to be productive. For teams and organizations, you'll be able to understand where your current decision process stalls, and then you're able to begin to address it structurally. Right, then you'll be able to stop deliberating and start deciding with a repeatable approach that is grounded in decision intelligence. So as mentioned, the ebook is one option, but this is never the final option. The full program goes further. All right. Now, what I do and how I work with you. So I do not apply a generic framework. I assess what exists, identify what is missing, and then help you install what is needed. And this shows that for various persons, the options are different. So for founders, small business owners, CEOs, and managing directors, senior leaders, and department heads, operations, and administrative professionals, this is showing you that there are different tiers, there are different requirements, that exist within different types of organizations. For example, with founders, I help you install a decision framework that scales with your organization. So before informal processes become structured liabilities, these are problems that quietly compound over time. So I help you to install a decision framework. I mentioned founders because depending on the organization, founders struggle so much because either they have to do work themselves, or it depends on several factors which I'll not go into at this time. For small business owners, I help you structure how competing priorities are processed and resolved. So every decision follows a repeatable path rather than being rebuilt from the beginning each time. From the beginning each time. Great. Now, for CEOs and managing directors, I help you install a decision culture that operates independently of your direct involvement. This will be structured, measurable, and designed to compound organizational output over time. Okay, so you can see the variations there. For senior leaders and department heads, I help you structure the space between team decisions and team action, installing a closure and validation process so decisions are made once and followed through. And for operations and administrative professionals, I help you convert your recurring decision loops into resolved, documented processes. So this reduces the time revisiting what has already been settled. All right, and now we just have a few minutes. All right, what can you expect? Outcomes. All right, no single outcome, as mentioned before, fits every situation. What you leave with is calibrated to where you are starting from. Every engagement begins with a diagnosis. The outcomes below represents the standard of results. So this program is designed to produce across the standard of result. This program is designed to produce across 3 performance dimensions. So you have high performance, crisis readiness, and quality control. Okay, so note, now as it relates to high performance, decisions reach faster without sacrificing rigor. All right, your cognitive load, that's basically saying mental pressure, is reduced through repeatable decision criteria. So this will basically allow you, once you practice a set of structured decision-making process, if you follow that pattern over time, hey, then it will become easier for you. That's where your cognitive load reduces. So you're able to think better, make better decisions. We just have a few minutes. Team output increases. Why? Because execution gaps are structurally closed. So again, it goes back to structure as mentioned before. Individuals operate closer to their productive ceiling. Now, as it relates to crisis resilience, decisions made hold under pressure. So not just in stable conditions, all right? Confidence in decision does not collapse when circumstances change. So we pause here to see, this is why we need to have structure. So decision-making process that involves structure is very important. It's not something to be overlooked. All right. Now, organizations stop reopening resolved decisions during critical periods because we actually do that. Our organizations actually do that. All right. When it's crisis, everything is haywire and so much things get revisited. Now, leaders and teams respond to disruption with structural clarity. As it relates to quality control, decisions are validated before execution, so it doesn't have to be corrected after. Patterns of poor decision making are diagnosed and structurally addressed. Decision culture becomes measurable and improvable over time. So this is, of course, why in the 90-day period in the program, I ensure that there are certain conditions that will help to determine how effective those processes are, because everything you need to have KPIs, your key performance indicators. Okay. Now, every tier operates from the same decision standard, consistently applied. So this is what contributes to high performance. High performance, evaluate your crisis readiness and your quality control. So all of this outcomes below represent the standard of results that you can expect from this program. What it is designed to produce across 3 performance dimensions, and of course that will not be all. Okay, hey, and now here comes an exciting part. This will be available on my webpage. All right, so based on the size of your organization, we have a live ROI calculator, so you'll be able to see what decision inefficiency is actually costing you. So how to use this? You're going to move the sliders and see your organization's number in real time. All right, and of course it explains to you, the formula is there. Step 1, you're going to look at your weekly wasted costs. All right, and then you're going to look at hours lost times 61%, and the 61% there refers to the decision time that is actually ineffective. All right, so it's stated at the top. All right, and then you're going to times that by your hourly rate and look at your team size. Step 2, you're going to look at the weekly hours that are actually reclaimed. So the hours lost times 40% times your team size. All right, and then the 40% measured there is the structure